Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the official podcast of GeoWoodstock 18 right here in the Great Pacific Northwest. Each week, we're going to talk about caches and cachers from all around the globe. So while you're texting a podcast while your wife is in labor, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
I don't know who would do that. I don't know, but everybody's welcome here except murder hornets. It means it's time, of course, to bring in our adventurous orangutan. Some say he's a geocaching overachiever. And others say he mows his lawn with an X-Acto knife. All we know is he's called Len Monkey.
Actual fact, I mow my lawn with my son. It's much more efficient that way.
You just swing him around?
Nope. I say, you need to go mow the lawn.
You know, one of the most beautiful sounds in the entire world is the sound of your lawnmower running and you're not pushing it.
Yes, that is a wonderful thing. Another wonderful thing is I saw our guest tonight, Sandra Riches. Hello, Sandra.
Yay.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
And also wonderful, you danced along with the music right off the start like a pro. That was awesome.
I've been here before. I know the routine now. I know what to do.
She's wise to us, guys. We'll have to change it up. Awesome. Well, Sandra, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to see you.
Same pleasure. Yeah, it's good to be back and chat with everyone. I look forward to the next hour or so. Good.
Awesome. We're really looking forward to it. We are going to talk to Sandra about being adventure smart and e-learning. So this is exciting, something a little bit new, yet something that we all should definitely know about. Something else we should know about is, of course, a quick reminder that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep the podcast coming each and every week. Thanks to Landsharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Landsharks wants to say a huge thank you to those of you who continue to support them by placing orders at this time. If you are at home solving puzzles, if you're at home planning new cache hides, hey, if you're organizing your geocoin collection, there's lots of good stuff that may bring you geocaching joy. And you'll get an extra 15% off most items with the code SHARKS15. That's SHARKZ15. And folks, if you want to know more about supporting the show, click that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com a website.
You know, the only way to spell sharks anymore is with a Z.
Yes,
I thought so.
Yeah. I'm learning to spell like a Canadian. It's a good feeling sometimes. I'm just tossing U's into words where I don't think they normally belong. And it seems
if there's an O, there should be a U beside it.
Okay. Oh, you.
That's right.
Okay.
That was quick.
Well, folks, it's time for our glow. You may ask, what is a glow? It's a geocaching log of the week. Whether you read it or whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. Send an email, perhaps a field recording, to feedback@cachingnw.com. You can call in to 253-693-TFTC or use the voicemail tool on the website and show us how you glow.
And you know who sent an email recently? I don't know how recently, but the current log is from Just Finding Our Way, who sent an email. And they said, my newest LPC cache, and just for grins and giggles, I Googled LPC acronyms, and there's a huge long list. And of course, the Canadians are right at the top with Liberal Party of Canada, but that's not what this one means. I'm going with low pressure carburizing or perhaps link protocol converter or lamppost cache. This is about GC8 Quebec 6 Alpha Golf, and it was published, according to Just Finding Our Way, when they submitted this. It was just published yesterday and already collected a glow-worthy log because it's the kind of influence caching in the Northwest has. It wasn't the FTF log, but it was a glow-worthy log. They said this cache is in a church parking lot, since gadgets seem to survive better around here on parking lot poles instead of hanging in trees and desert. And the log reads, so, pulled up in the parking area. The most handsome quail was sitting atop what appeared to be the cache container and maybe preaching a sermon to all the other quail in the area. He was so proud and talking so loudly. I just sat and watched him for a minute. Finally, I needed to get about the project at hand, so I started to get out of the ride, and away he went. Well, after leaving a calling card behind. Now, this is a just finding our way cache, which means it isn't straightforward. So looking, touching, listening, and there it is. Special thank you to Pastor Paul Frank for allowing just finding our way to place the cache here. It was 7:51 when I was there, daylight, and no muggles. Well, except for Brother Quail.
Nice.
Thank you, Just Finding Our Way, for submitting that. And you know what? You know what they just earned? They just earned the coveted Caching in the Northwest glow badge for their profile. Yes, that's right. It's already been sent on its way.
Yes.
The 2020 glow badge, the only good thing to come out of this year so far.
Yeah. Yeah, what was that saying? 2020 came in looking like a chocolate chip cookie, and one bite, and bam, oatmeal raisin.
I love oatmeal raisin cookies.
I do too, but it was a good
Oh
saying.
my gosh, they're the best.
Yeah.
But do you expect them to be chocolate chip?
Yeah, but when your mouth is set for that chocolate chip, it is a rude awakening, even if you like them.
Expectations. Everyone's got different ones.
There you go, Sandra. Perfect.
Yeah.
Folks, if you go ahead, Chris, you gonna
got it.
Okay, folks, if you want to ask some questions to our guest tonight, throw some ideas into the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Use hashtag SAFE, SAFE, and then we'll know that you're directing your question towards our guest. If you have something you'd like to talk about in the after show, use the age-worn, well-worn, well-known hashtag FATAS, and we'll talk about it in the after show. All right.
Boy, it sounds like maybe that's getting old.
Well, it's well worn. It's comfortable.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going with that. I'm not getting old. I'm getting comfortable.
Oh, see, there you go. Carlos says oatmeal raisin cookies being near chocolate chip cookies are the reason I have trust issues.
Yeah, my wife could tell you a story from way back in the early relationship about Raisinets and goobers, and we'll just leave it at that.
Oh, I think I've heard of men and women described that way. But I think we're going to move on.
And not to cookies.
Not to cookies. This is a show about geocaching, not various snack foods.
But now I'm hungry.
Though we may have people baking during our show. Sandra, I have found out, and it surprises me, that we have a large number of people that tend to bake during the podcast. So,
entertainment all around. They're getting a snack out of it, and they get to listen to this great show.
exactly.
How can you lose?
I could put in an oven right here on the side.
Just get the Easy Bake Oven. It's probably in the garage somewhere.
Yeah.
It could be like cutting grass. You could just get someone else to bake the cookies for you and bring them to you, and life is good. Someone else cuts the lawn, life is good.
Yeah, we've got other people doing the baking, but so far none of them have shown up in our studios. So
I got pictures, but that's the same.
All right.
Okay. Sandra, you have to come on more often. We like you.
I don't bring cookies and I don't cut the lawn, but thank you.
Well, let's talk about what else you do. However, so Sandra Riches, Executive Director of AdventureSmartBC, joining us tonight. We've welcomed you back to the show. You are a repeat guest, and we just love having you on the show. Thank you for making the time to speak with us and our listeners about being Adventure Smart.
Thank you. It's nice to be invited back. That's always a good sign, and to chat with you guys again and to answer any questions that might come in as well. I know that we're all going through interesting times everywhere, and yet wherever we live, we are still interested, I think, mostly in recreating on some level or another, depending on our experiences, abilities, and what's open in our neighborhoods, really. So our message is not really changed all that much, but we are steering it to the current times in relation to COVID and what we can all do to help everyone, including our family, friends, our neighbors, health, the healthcare system, and search and rescue volunteers from coast to coast to coast here in Canada, but the message goes everywhere.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Now, Sandra, you've been on the show. We watch you on social media. You rarely sit still for long. So how have you been keeping active the last couple of months?
It's a great question. I get asked that a few times here and there, actually. I'm a busy bee, but I like it that way. It keeps me sane. Our health officials and our parents and everyone in our world has taught us to take care of our physical well-being, but also our mental well-being. So for me, they collide and clash and melt together quite nicely. So both of them are important to me, and I get that through regular walks that are pretty consistent right now because we're recreating close to home. And I think I've mentioned before, I have 2 children, and my 3rd child is my mountain bike. So I'm riding my mountain bike a lot. My boyfriend and I are out regularly, again, locally, and I have access to those local trails. So I'm really quite fortunate to have access to some pretty great terrain that's easy to get to-ish, depending on how many hills we take to get there and how many hills we ride up there. But, we're also choosing lower risk trails, lower risk activities. And that's the message that we're talking about as well with AdventureSmart is, we're not saying don't go, and either our health officials really in our area, they're saying to get outside because it is healthy for us physically and mentally, but we need to be conscious of what we're doing, how it will affect others if something goes wrong. And that's where I come in, because that does affect search and rescue if something goes sideways.
And we hope nothing ever goes sideways, of course. But you're there if it does, and you have some great advice preemptively before people head out to the trail. We have loved your advice and your input and your guides in the past, but maybe there's somebody joining us that's new to this podcast, new to outdoors, at least new to your organization. Can you remind people or tell some new people what's the goal of AdventureSmart and your role there?
Yeah, our main focus since day one and still to date, 16 years later in British Columbia, and since 2009, right across the country in Canada, we're here to educate, inform, and engage with residents, new Canadians, and tourists when they come back. And we're here to engage and educate you so that we can increase awareness for the main focus to reduce the number and severity of search and rescue calls in our province, in our country. Again, and this message is universal, really. It can go anywhere, and it's applicable no matter where we live. We're just really fortunate to have the support of our search and rescue organization, the province of British Columbia, and the campaign that we have is very robust, and it's a great model. So, we deliver presentations. We used to, and we will again, face to face, and set up at busy trailheads, and do lots of interaction in communities all across the province. And now we've altered that to work with and still support our active, healthy province, and we're doing it virtually. So again, our message is simple. It's not rocket science, but we ask everyone to just be prepared for the outdoors and be prepared in case something goes sideways or goes wrong again. So the whole idea is to alleviate that stress on the search and rescue system. But if something goes wrong, you're prepared to take care of yourself and get out safely, or you can better take care of yourself until search and rescue find you. So we talk about a wealth of tips and tricks.
Fantastic. I think Sandra answered the question that I was going to ask already, which is how you guys are continuing to get your message out these days. I think you just alluded to it, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, and we normally talk face to face. That's where our main passion lies, and I think that's where we all learn best from is classroom setting or trailhead, or in a gymnasium or on the ski hill. So we're there everywhere. We're in-house, we're outdoors, and official curriculums delivered inside, and then very impromptu but great conversations like this are done at trailheads and ski hills and community events and overlanding gatherings. And if it's for 4x4s or skiers or paddlers or geocachers or mountain bikers, our message is really consistent. So what we've done is we've made it a little bit more available because we've done virtual training before and virtual presentations before, but now everyone better jump on that boat or it might just sail by you. So so we're on that boat safely and here to offer our presentation. So the curriculum's the same, the message is the same. We're just doing it through Google Hangouts or Zoom, 2 examples. And we're setting up little meetups for organizations that want us to present to their outdoor club. If it's geocachers, or we just did one a couple weeks ago to a mountain bike group and to an overlanding 4x4 organization. And so we'll deliver our presentations that way. And then we're also training search and rescue volunteers to be volunteers with us for incident prevention. So we're still running our training. We're still doing public education. And we're about to have 2 public presentations to come out here on May 16th and May 20th. And we'll post those on our Facebook events. And anyone can join us on those meetups. And we have a children's program and an adults program coming up.
Nice. Now, Sandra, looks like the best spot to go is to go to www.adventuresmart.ca and to find out everything you're doing there.
You're right. So that's the website. That's our national platform that has everything on there for all the provinces and territories, public and all of the volunteers that work with us. And that's a great one-stop shop. And what we have uniquely, though, in British Columbia is Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I just sent you our Instagram link there if you're able to share that, or if I just did. I'm not sure. You can let me know. And that will allow everyone to access our Instagram. And fortunately for everyone else, the Twitter and Facebook have the same handle. So if you just type in @BCADV Smart, you'll find us on those 3. That's where we have a lot of engagement on a daily basis. We have Trip Plan Tuesdays. We've had Solve It Saturdays. We have some great activities and engagement and safety tips and COVID-related information share about making healthy, responsible decisions before you go out for your local activities, and how you can reduce the effect on our healthcare system, which does include our first responders, which are the 2,500 volunteers in BC, or the now 9,000 volunteers in Canada, search and rescue volunteers.
That's great. So obviously, Adventure Smart, all about adventuring, getting outdoors, getting away, and enjoying all the wonders that outdoor brings. But, you know, while the 3 of us enjoy that, the 3 of us hosts, we're also, well, we're nerds. And we're all about the technology. After all, Thursday nights here, we've been bringing caching in the Northwest to people, social isolating for 350 episodes. We were social isolating before social isolating was cool. You mentioned Hangouts, you mentioned Zoom, and we've touched on a lot of those things. What technology does somebody at home need to have to use AdventureSmart eLearning and connect with you?
Yeah, super simple. So Zoom's easy to download. I think quite a few of us have adapted to that out of necessity or interest. And that's easy. If you have a Gmail, then you can hang out with us. So that's an easy one. And that's where we've kind of steered to that platform a little bit. It's pretty simple. We'll set up those events. Like I said, for May 16th will be our children's presentation for the Hug a Tree and Survive at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. And then on May 20th, we'll have an evening session for all ages, really. And that will be at 7 p.m. And that's our Survive Outside program. And we'll place that information for the Google Hangouts in our Facebook events. And it's just going to be as easy as a click on the link and boom, you're there. So it's nothing onerous. It's not difficult. And if anyone has another platform that they use and prefer, they can just DM us on any of those socials, and we'll make it work at our end so it works at your end.
Wow, that's pretty accommodating.
Yeah.
Well, we also don't want to miss out on anyone who's heading outdoors. And I think I've mentioned it before, but I'll remind your listeners that in British Columbia, we have over 1,700 search and rescue calls in BC on an annual basis.
Wow.
That's a lot. Yes, it deserves a wow. We can say wow together. It's a biggie. And that's why AdventureSmart was created in the first place, to bring that number down. And there's a lot involved in that equation, which I think we've talked about before. If it's active, healthy province, residents, tourism, marketing, easy access to awesome terrain, so much involved there. But a lot of those incidents could be brought down. What we're noticing a little bit, though, in the trend of that is not as much searching happening, but search and rescue are going out to bring back subjects. Those are the hikers, bikers, paddlers that get lost, to rescue them from a situation. So they're not getting as lost, but they're still needing assistance and being brought back home. So that's where every individual who heads out there can get prepared. They can trip plan, they can train, they can take those essentials And then the severity of that search and rescue call is less, which really helps search and rescue as well. So if they only have to come out and it takes a couple of hours versus a couple of days, because you're prepared, you can get through the night, you can have water, hopefully warmth, heat, whatever, you can take care of yourself, then that's actually success.
That's a really good point. And I like that approach of, obviously, particularly now that we're very aware of COVID and the COVID situation, we want to lessen the impact on the first responders, as well as if there's less, as you were describing, less situations where people are simply lost, and more so that if they're calling a SAR call out, it's because they're injured. There's also an impact down, like a ripple effect on the healthcare system that's going to come from that as well. So if we can reduce that, not only are we reducing the SAR callouts and the impact on the volunteers, we're reducing the impact on the health system, period.
Period. You hit the nail on the head, and it does. It trickles down. It goes from subject to family, friends, first responders, search and rescue, helicopter pilots who may have to be all within that small little room of the helicopter, and then there's everyone's masked up with PPE, and it's a different ball game right now, and that has to be on everyone's mind who's heading out for a geocache or a hike or even just a local ride like I've been doing. We need to pull it back a little bit and go in a different gear. I know we're an active, healthy province, and we love to be in fifth gear, a lot of us. And right now we need to be in second gear, I think, personally, at the most. Those lower risk activities need to be chosen. Those less severe trails need to be rode and hiked, and that reduces that trickle effect, like Jay just said, so that we don't get down to the SAR, so we don't have to get down to that helicopter pilot, let alone the ambulance, paramedics, nurses, doctors. Now you're at the hospital. So I know this is what we've all heard for so long, for weeks and weeks, but my shoulders hold those 2,500 volunteers right there, and it's my job to keep them home as much as possible.
Absolutely. And in order to try and keep them home as much as possible, and everybody wants to get out as much as possible right now. The days are getting longer, they're getting sunnier. We had a beautiful day in BC and Washington today. I know up here in British Columbia, we got some great news on the weekend. Things are going to start relaxing a little bit more. People are going to start getting out a little bit more, particularly after our long weekend. I'm sure Washington won't be far behind. Same with Alberta. But with all of that going on and people getting a little more active and getting a little more antsy to get out, what does it change with respect to what people should be thinking before they head out?
It's an awesome question, and I'll click on that trip plan app and send it your way if we can share that as well. There's a few things to think about before we head out, no matter what, if they're small, easy, simple, respectful activities like they should be right now, or if they're big, adventurous backcountry journeys that a lot of us plan for and go on for days or longer. And that starts with our 3 T's. So we want you to trip plan. You need to plan your activity and then file the trip plan. Even for this local recreation right now, it's an awesome time to practice filing that trip plan. So there's the app we've got, which is free of charge, downloaded on Android or iPhone, and that can be your simple guide to fill in the fields. You could go to it and not even know, what the heck do I put in here? You don't have to think about it. We've made it easy for you. So you just fill in the fields, send that to an emergency contact that is in your phone, email or text message, and then they know where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, what activity you've chosen, and when you're returning, amongst many other things. And then when you get back, go back into the app, please, because some people forget this part. And I call it checkout, but that's my ex-park ranger hat coming on and off. Complete that trip plan so that you've actually send another notification to your emergency contact that you're home, having a burger and a beer, you're on the couch, you're ready to watch Netflix. So finish the process. Start the process by downloading the app, filling the activity out for the trip plan, come home after it, complete that trip plan. That's critical.
Wow, that is really good. That app is useful. and it's a practice that we all should be in.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be through the app. We've just made it simple for you because we're here to help you. That's our job. That's my job, and all of us here at the crew. So, but it can be a sticky note on the fridge. It can be a note under the seat in your car. It can be a trailhead selfie that you've just posted and saying, I'm going to head up here. That's cool. Then we can search and rescue if they need to find you. They see what you look like that day, how long your hair is now, because COVID's making us grow our hair.
Yeah.
It lets us know which clothing we have on, pack. Maybe you see a little whistle hanging off the strap there. These are cues and clues in the search and rescue's investigation. So ideally, you put that in the trip plan, and or they will start their investigation and search for those notes, those stickies, the fridge note, the trailhead selfie. They'll check your social media. So the more information, the better.
Wow, Sandra, what you just described about a simple trailhead selfie that people will probably take and just post, and hoping to get likes, could actually save your life.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
wow,
Absolutely.
I never considered those options. So
Yeah, it doesn't have to be onerous or lengthy or super official, even though, again, I'll go back to it. We've made that simple for you, so you don't have to think. But that trailhead selfie can work. And the search and rescue volunteers will use social media as well in part of their investigation to look for those clues. But again, that the app is there to use, and it's awesome.
mhm.
It is awesome. I use it frequently. You introduced us to it a couple of episodes ago on your first visit to our podcast. I've become a big advocate for the trip planning app. It's simple to use, and you can use it anywhere in Canada. It's not just for use in BC. And for a lot of our US friends, once the border opens back up again, when you come up here, you can have the app installed and use it for any of the hikes and trips and adventures you're doing up here.
Yeah, it is simple. I'm glad to hear you like it, Jay. That's awesome. It's nice to get feedback. We know it's being used. We're just not sure. My little tips and tricks on it are I've created some for different activities. So if it's either hiking or snowmobiling or mountain biking, let's just say those three are in there, and they are. So when I go for a new ride tomorrow, I'll use the same plan that I've been using for a long time for that activity, and all I have to do is edit it. So I might change I'll change the date. I might change the trail, the route choice, and I'll pick the different times I'm coming and going. But my emergency contact stays the same. My activity stays the same. My pack is always packed. So it's got my essentials and my season and sport specific stuff. So that doesn't really change aside from freshening up the water, maybe adding a few extra snacks. But there's a lot of similarities to each plan, especially for the activities. So you don't have to create a whole brand new one. Just go in and edit the other one. Last little fun tip. I actually was using my daughter once for an emergency contact, and she's been Peanut to me since she was born. She that's just her name, and she's 19 actually, so I still call her Peanut. But in the app, it doesn't recognize Peanut. It doesn't know who the heck Peanut is. So I actually begrudgingly had to change her name in my phone to her real name. But it's for good reason. But so it doesn't accept nicknames.
There you go. We did have a question. GSM times 2, who lives in California, was asking, the app is only for Canada?
It is, yes. So it's a national organization that I work with, Public Safety Canada, which is our federal government, and then also the Search and Rescue Volunteers Association of Canada, and with our BC affiliates. So we created as a national application for now. So yeah, it is just for here at this time.
But the principles, of course, apply.
Yes.
Regardless. Yeah.
Oh, like I said, app or not, you still need a trip plan. If you live in Timbuktu or Seattle, you still can write a note and let someone know where you're going. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. We have lots of things to give people, if it's emergency shelters or whistles or games. Like, these are all incentives. And the app could be also called an incentive. But you can still do all of this without the tangibles that I give you. And I include the app as a tangible, let's say a deliverable. So you are more than capable of filling out a trip plan of your own. You can definitely go to the website at AdventureSmart.ca, go to the trip planning section, scroll down, and there's actually an older version of a trip plan there. It just kind of prompts you through again. But again, a note of where you're going, what you're doing when you're coming home, what you're taking. That's all it is.
Okay.
And just letting your contacts know when you get back home, so you can still do it without the app.
There you go. And
California is just a different CA. That's all.
It is. That's true. That's true.
That's right.
So SAR prevention, it seems to be more important lately than it normally is. We talked about that a little bit. Do you have any feedback? You talked about some average numbers that we see every year. Do we have any feedback or any idea of how the SAR teams around the Northwest are doing this year? And the add-on question, what can our listeners do to support the SAR teams?
Great. A few questions in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So the average, like I said, annual in British Columbia, 1,700. Right before Easter, which was just slightly just after COVID hit the world or here, we actually noticed a decrease in the search and rescue calls in British Columbia. Again, that's what I'm talking about right now. And that was great, because everyone was heightened. It was brand new, and I'm not saying it's not now, but right before Easter, and along with that, we actually put out a public safety announcement, which we do before every long weekend, and I'm tossing one out tomorrow for this weekend because of the weather. So still need to remind everyone. But so that was awesome to see that, and there was a 50% decrease in search and rescue calls about a week before Easter. A lot involved in that equation. Everybody was barely going to the grocery store. So I'd say a lot of people were staying home and not really doing as much as they usually do. Weeks go by, people get a little bit more comfortable maybe in their neighborhood, maybe resume some activities they did before and think, yeah, I can still get to those great trails. I'm still going to go for a good ride, as an example, or a good hike or a good paddle now that it's warmer. I was talking to our senior manager for BC Search and Rescue this week, and this time last year, or pardon me, right now, compared to this time last year, we're 35% higher than we were this time last year for search and rescue calls in the province of BC. It's disheartening. It's unfortunate. Search and rescue want to stay home with their friends and family as well and keep safe and only go to the grocery store or recreate locally or just start to get into our stages as we restart BC. For them to go on a search and rescue call, then it places them in a different environment, in a different bubble, which we're all talking about our bubbles, and then it places them in a different situation. And they're awesome at keeping their physical distancing on a call, like at a command station near the truck. They're all distance apart, playing the rules. But when they come down to the subject, that changes. They need to put on their SAR hat on, their first responder, and assess the situation and the subject. So that creeps everybody into a closer scenario, right? And or if there's helicopter use, changes the ball game. So lots involved in that equation, and it's unfortunate to see that the call volume's gone up in the last week or so. Hence my public safety announcement for tomorrow with AdventureSmart in BC, and everywhere else, really. It's, again, the equation, I think, consists of pent-up energy. I think it consists of cabin fever. I think it consists of the sun's out. It's going to be 25 degrees this weekend, and I'm going anyway. It could be the attitude, right? So if we've already seen an increase, unfortunately, we just all need to check in a little bit and again, come back down to a lower gear. Yeah. Until we're free.
GSM times 2 says locally we're seeing a lot of trail use. The trailheads are very crowded. And he goes on to ask, are they seeing an increase in trail usage in the last month? And you just answered that, Sandra. So obviously they are, and that's that's not good.
It's hard, actually. I think a lot of us are doing the right thing, and we're doing it in the right locations. And what's happening now is those locations are less than we're used to playing in. So our terrain, whatever that square kilometer would be, is a heck of a lot less now, everywhere. So if we had so much to train to play in before, to do all these activities, it was bigger, everything was open, we had all our areas to play in. Now we're pulled back and the gates have closed, so to speak, and we have to play locally and not go to those other areas. So what does that do? It creates a higher crowd and a higher density at those local and municipal and regional parks and trail systems. So then that's an influx on that system. right? So in our area, we've been quite lucky. A lot of regional municipal parks and trails have stayed open. Provincial areas have closed. That's starting to alter slowly. But those regional municipal ones now have been taxed with the density of use. Hence, every time now I'm heading up for a ride, I'm trying to pick now and choose what time should I go, because it seems every time I go now, no matter what time of the day during the week, let's say, it feels like a busy weekend.
Yeah.
Because now we're all pushed into this small area to play.
That is a good analogy. Yeah.
Sprouter had an interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Both grabbing the same one there.
I was going to bring up that says I was on a loop trail today, and it was one-way directional traffic clockwise, and there were some rule breakers, but it made social distancing much easier.
Yeah, it's like us at the grocery store. I feel like I have to pay so close attention to what direction to go at the grocery store. I'm like, oh no, I made a mistake. I have to go back and reroute. Like, my goodness. But it's not a bad idea. I know in some areas we always have one directional trails. I know there's some locally here on the South Coast where they are one direction for a lot of great reasons. Safety's one, density's another. Those are just two. So, some areas that's great for those land managers that they've made them one directional for that reason. It makes it a lot easier for us. No matter if you're on a horseback, on a horse, or if you're on the bike, we're all heading the same direction. We can keep that distance easier than having to pass each other. Because there are some rule breakers out there. Not everyone's getting way off the trail to let you pass, or maybe that's you. But I don't mean you guys. I just mean
Oh yeah.
or maybe some
Not
people.
our listeners.
No.
Oh no.
And of course, with physical distancing, it's not appropriate to get close enough to push them off the trail either.
No.
Don't do that.
I don't even think ever, really. But
Well, probably not.
So it makes it interesting though, out on the trails where everyone's being conscious and they're heading there to have tranquility and exercise and mental and physical well-being, and then they have to be cautious again. You know what I mean? It's everywhere we go. But one-way traffic on trails isn't a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, and GSM Times 2 is also commenting about the topic of lots of additional people on the trails, and saying a lot of new hikers and bikers getting on the trail. And I think that just makes Sandra, makes your message all the more important, right? If you're new to being out in the outdoors, then don't put it into fifth gear in your first time out.
Yeah.
And do follow the 3 T's.
Exactly. It's I love that you're so versed that you just throw 3 T's off you. It rolls off your tongue like you're working for me. It's great. I love it.
We do work for you, don't we?
You are right now, actually.
That's right.
If you know it or not, you are. New Year's to activities. I think we've all seen it. I know I've seen it. You see these energetic people. It's like, I'm going to start running now. I'm going to start riding now. I'm going to start hiking this mountain now. Well, there's a lot at play. And Jay mentioned the 3 T's. So we already talked about trip planning a bit, and we could talk about training. It was a great segue. So being physically fit. It's awesome that people are getting out there because they have time, and now they have ability to go locally. But being physically fit for whatever you choose to do at the level you choose to do it would be an important part of that equation to make sure that you're okay. And build up. I know we've been walking here locally, my boyfriend and I, every morning right after coffee, and we're doing our regular, and then we go for a ride. And it's almost like we've been on this 7 or 8 week training regime, because now our hills are easier, our walks are faster, our cardio's better, our Fitbit's saying great things it did compared to 7 weeks ago. And so we've noticed a change. But for those newbies, training is a big part of it, and having mental strength as well, that ties into, and having that equipment to take with you for the activities, even locally, is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So did we have anything else from our live audience we wanted to go through, or we?
I think there was a question from GSM Times 2 asking where AdventureSmart is funded, or how AdventureSmart is funded.
Excellent question. So in British Columbia, we're supported through through Emergency Management BC, which is the province of BC. And we've been very fortunate through the BC Search and Rescue Association to be awarded from the province excellent funding. Some of them have been one-time awards. So in 2016, we received I believe it was $16 million. And that supported the BC Search and Rescue Association to then support the search and rescue volunteers, which we have 2,500 of on 80 teams, then 79 teams now, and that Support Safe AdventureSmart program. So what we got again here recently, about a year and a half ago, was another 18.6 million to do the same thing. And when they award those funds, which is so supportive, is there's a timeline to spend that. So we have X amount of years to use that accordance to our support model that we place to them to say we would do A, B, and C in the response world, and we would do A, B, and C in the incident prevention world with AdventureSmart. And then there's sustainability as well that we have from the province for that funding. So we're quite fortunate to have the provincial funding that supports response and prevention. And the prevention is myself, my staff, our campaign, our trucks, our office, this laptop I'm on. So we have tangibles and we're supported in kind in many, many ways, but also financially through those streams.
Fantastic. Well, something that I have appreciated, I have had, in the past when we all used to get together, and it's coming again soon, but have had AdventureSmart presentations at my workplace and at a geocaching event that we've done as well, and really appreciated that you guys do that. And the message was so well received in both situations. I still have people today at work who talk about that AdventureSmart presentation that you guys came and did. So we really appreciate everything that AdventureSmart does. And so first of all, thank you, Sandra, for all your work.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And your teams, of course. And I want to remind anybody who's watching this episode, if you like this message, if you find this message interesting, make sure you like it, give it a thumbs up on either Facebook or YouTube, and share this message. Like share this with your friends. Tell them to come and take a listen, and maybe they'll learn something new. So please share, like, we appreciate it very much. And Sandra, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to ask you if you want to hold on as we go through the credits and then get into the after show and talk about whatever's on your mind.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate it. It was great. And if there's any other questions, don't hesitate to DM us on any of those socials. We're here for you.
Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, listeners. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Now join us next week as we do a Hands Across the Border game show edition. You're not going to want to miss this. This is going to be a lot of fun. And also, patrons, join us this Saturday night at 9 p.m. and we'll do about an hour of some silly games together.
Silly?
No.
It happens once in a while.
Serious and challenging.
Only on Saturdays.
All right. Well, while we're all being silly, we'll also take a moment to thank the Land Sharks, our corporate Denali level sponsor. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online. They ship orders daily. And thank you to all of our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Landsharks, JP's Geo Designs, Limax, Team Squirrel, and Groovy Owl. And folks, if you want to know more about supporting the show, click that Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website.
Just like T. Sayer did.
And why no Seattle?
And why no Seattle's little one?
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And Ella Robrick.
Emner.
Billy Robson.
Antaeus.
LG 9000.
Kev MacD.
GSM ×2.
Highlands Guy.
MC3 Cats. Temperatures in both Fahrenheit and Celsius.
GeoNav Pros enjoying the podcast from the hot tub with a glass of wine, I'm sure.
Kitty Quest.
B Pendragon.
Boomer 365.
Seabeck Tribe.
Kennel Barb.
Genies.
The One Way Sprouter.
Hey, wet coaster in green words.
Subway Mark, probably also one way.
Kid Vegas 19.
Fairwood West.
Log work.
Tick Magnet.
Hey, Camp Clan.
Broncos fan for life.
Team Noltex.
The Geo Travelers.
Trexer Zero.
Acker Doc.
Keats 94 out fiddling.
In the woods.
Yeah.
By himself. Sege Hove.
That was a mental image I did not need. Dune Buddy.
CRS 98.
Dora Moore.
And our newest on a boat.
All right. This has been so much fun and so important to learn all this about trails. Sandra, thank you so much for coming once again to our humble little podcast here. One last time, we've thrown out a few things before, but how can people get in touch with you to learn more?
Absolutely. So they can either go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and that's at BCADV Smart. And that's easy. They're all the three same handles. Or if you headed to the website, AdventureSmart.ca, that's where you're going to find the programs, curriculum, everything. And you can request programs through the website as well. And that comes to specific provinces or territories that come to me in BC. But, for British Columbia, it's easiest just to DM us, or you can email me. That's easy and direct as well. And I'm at exec director at AdventureSmartBC.ca.
Great.
Fantastic. And folks, if you want to reach any of the hosts of this podcast, well, just head on over to cashingnw.com/hosts. There you can read our bios, find contact info, and loads of other interesting tidbits and trivia and secret information that you really shouldn't find, but we put it on the internet anyways.
Ooh. Now I want to go.
Hey, but thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show. You can call into 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment, ask us a question, or solve the DB Cooper case for us any time of the day or night. Of course, you can always email us at feedback@cashingnw.com. Your support helps keep quality shows coming. If you like this show, please click the Patreon link on the cashingnw.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and more. Give us a thumbs up or even a review. The show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, and Jay Kennedy. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2020 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I beg you, I urge you, I plead with you to stay for
The after show.
the after show. Friends, countrymen, lend me your ear.
The after show.
There you go. Okay. Oh, now, Sandra, you've been on the after show before, I believe.
I have.
And for folks that haven't been on it, it's just a time where we have an opportunity to chat with in this case, 35 people that have been watching us live tonight. And they can bring up any topic. We may or may not answer that, but they're allowed to bring it up.
You can ask what you want.
That's right.
I will answer. If anyone wants to ask a question, I will answer.
Well, why don't we start with one that is definitely targeted towards you from June, and she wants to know. She says, "I know that search and rescue does not charge for rescues, but do you sometimes encourage donations from your rescued folks?" And she says, in a particular instance, when they're COVIDiots.
We all have different names for different people. I'll stick to the task at hand and answer that question, actually. So in British Columbia, yes, no. And in Canada, there's no charge for search and rescue. And we don't say it's free because there is a cost to absolutely everything in the world, including SAR. It costs to run a SAR group. It costs to equip them with safety gear, PPE, which now everybody knows what that means, to run their facilities, their trucks, their quads, their ATVs, their snowmobiles. They have to get avalanche transceivers, shovel probes, helmets. The list goes on. So there is a cost. But to the subject who needs rescuing and is brought home safe and sound, there is no charge to you as a subject. So that's important. So when we deliver our presentations and we talk about how you as a person for your activity needs to trip plan, train, take essentials, et cetera, as personal preparedness in our presentations, face-to-face or virtual. We also remind you or inform you that there is no charge to you if you're in trouble as a subject out there. So you need to make that phone call ASAP. Once you're lost in trouble or hurt, initiate that call as soon as you can. Your trip plan will do that as well. So will your phone call. But if you don't have reception, you've filed that trip plan. But just note, the sooner you make that notification, that alert to search and rescue, which goes through here in BC through 911, goes to municipal or RCMP, then they task out the local search and rescue group or mutual teams that could aid depending on their specialties, if it's swift water, avalanche, high angle rope, whatever. But that call needs to come from you ASAP so that they can start their process. So don't think that when you dial 911, 20 minutes, you're going to see a beautiful little shiny helicopter coming over your head with a nice little stretcher in your home in 40 minutes. That would be great. That goes back again to us being prepared and planning for those situations where, yes, help is on the way, but I also need to take care of myself and be prepared to keep warm and dry, fed, hydrated. I need to alert them visually, maybe through sound, if it's an emergency signaling device, a whistle, flare, whatever. So you still have a job to do, right? But again, there is no charge to you. Donations is really where your question was going to. Sure, that can never hurt. You know, I mentioned some money earlier, and it sounds big, and it is a lot, and it's wonderful, and we're super appreciative, and it's grand. We know that. We still will accept donations, and when I say we, I speak on behalf of the 2,500 volunteers and currently the 79 search and rescue groups in British Columbia. So they still have lots and really appreciate that community support. If it's a Lions Club or a caching group or a mountain bike group or someone who's been rescued, $10, $20, $100, your choice of denomination to give that to that local SAR group for your appreciation is always well received, and will always go towards that SAR group's needs. It might mean that they need to get someone else some new crampons. It could mean that they get to service their mountain bikes twice that year instead of once. Like, these are just some basic examples, but your donation will make a difference to that local group, and it's appreciated, and it will go to good use.
Fantastic.
And there are donation options. Sorry, guys, to interrupt you. There are donation options. Let's say a subject's rescued. If you wanted to do it face-to-face, that's great. On the BC SARA, BC Search and Rescue Association.com website, there's a donation page that you can go in and specify to your local SAR group. If you don't know what it is, it's listed on that site. Or if you want it to come to incident prevention, you can say, hey, I want it to go to BC AdventureSmart. You can kind of guide it in the right direction. And so if you're in the Bulkley Valley and you want it to go to Bulkley Valley Search and Rescue, then just note that on your donation section on the link.
Very cool.
Very informative. Yeah.
Yeah. And just remember, search and rescue is not a backwoods Uber.
No.
Out there just to pick you up because you've gotten tired.
No. That's where I come in. That's where we come in here, right? When we came and talked to your group, Jay, we're here to remind everybody you have a little bit of responsibility there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the rescue only takes 10 minutes on a TV show, but there's way more involved in real life.
It's good to know that, though, right? Like, to have Sandra here to walk us through all that, it's really helpful to make sure we've got that perspective. We're getting lots of great questions coming in. I wanted to switch gears just a little bit. And so, Sandra, you're familiar with geocaching. So my first question for you is, have you had a chance to get out and try it yet?
I quietly say no, and I'm
Okay.
sorry.
It's okay. No judgment.
Nothing wrong with that.
I made you an offer on the last time you were on here and said, I'm going to take you out geocaching, and we just never were able to line it up. So once this is all over, we're going to do this.
There's still time.
There's
I'll
still
pick you
time.
up on it. Sounds good.
So what you might not know, Sandra, is May 2nd was the 20th anniversary of the start of the game of geocaching.
Whoa, congratulations.
So it's a pretty exciting year for us. That's why everybody's itching to get out and go play, and nobody can. So
yeah.
very excited about it. So in order to celebrate that, they have what they call the Big Blue Switch souvenir that people can earn by going and finding geocaches. So the question came up, hashtag Fatas from IHAM, asking who had gone out to earn their Big Blue Switch souvenir. So certainly we want to hear from all you guys watching the show, who's gotten their souvenir. But hosts, yeah, Jim?
I got mine.
Chris, you got yours too?
Mm-hmm.
Good job, you guys. I also got mine on Big Blue Switch Day because it fell on a weekend. And yeah, we were able to go out to a very unused trail and not be around other people, which was awesome. Not have to follow one-way trail system on a loop.
Yeah.
Everybody maintaining an arm's distance from everybody else.
Exactly. Well, in case you didn't get it, it was normally only available on May 2nd.
Right.
That's
Normally.
the Big Blue Switch. And Sandra, the Big Blue Switch is when President Clinton signed the executive order to turn off selective availability and made GPS far more accurate to the accuracy we have today. Prior to that, was it 20 meters?
Yeah, it was always that accurate if you were the military.
Yeah.
Or government or whatever. Yeah.
Accurate for civilians.
Yeah.
And really, that's when the game of geocaching came about.
But since nothing's normal in 2020, what are we doing this year?
Well, now, if you didn't get out on May 2nd, that's okay. We're going to give you a little flexibility. You have till the end of the year. Just find a geocache between now and December 31st, and you'll earn that Big Blue Switch souvenir.
That's quite flexible. There's enough time for Sandra to get out and get her souvenir.
You read my mind. I thought, oh man, I've got plenty of time to figure this out. Okay,
There you
good.
go.
When you find your first cache, you're going to get like at least 3 souvenirs just for finding your first cache. You're going to get the BC souvenir. You're going to get the Canada souvenir. You're going to get the Big Blue Switch. Who knows? Like if you time it well, you could get like 6 souvenirs.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay, thanks for that motivation, Jay.
There you go.
I mean, they're pieces of art that go on your profile, but they're still
Exactly.
something, right?
Oh, good.
They're beautiful pieces of art. So there's that.
Awesome.
I'm seeing tons of activity in the chat here. It looks like almost everybody's gotten out for it, which is fantastic.
I'm going to try to pop through, but I got to start where it is. So I think GeoNav Pros,
Yeah.
Brylang, Starcacher, MC3 Cats, GSM times 2, IHAM, Kev MacD, Sprouter, Renwood and Smart Couple, June,
Not Doramore.
not Doramore,
Not me yet with the little face.
You still have time.
Catherine,
Yeah.
and
Monkey cakes.
There you go.
Sorry, it was half covered.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Andy got his on Big
Yeah,
Blue.
Andy.
There you
And
go.
JD. There you go. Wow. Lots
Wow.
going on. Very cool. Oh, and some more information about selective availability. Whoops, selective availability there.
We just have to select it.
Yeah. We have to both not select it at the same time. Yeah. So it added 50 meters of error horizontally and 100 meters vertically when it was enabled. And so once it was turned off, it removed the 50 meters of horizontal and 100 meters vertical error. So obviously the military would use that to kind of like scramble everybody else's use of GPS signal.
Yeah, the fear was, somebody would use it against us.
Carlos got his.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah. So everybody's getting their souvenirs. Very cool.
Yeah. B&P McCartney are hoping to get theirs on the 18th when they are allowed to go out and go caching.
Excellent.
Okay.
I wonder where they're located. I don't recognize the name.
I don't either.
Yeah. So
Well, welcome wherever you're from.
very cool. Kyle asked a great question, Sandra. That now I know
I can find it.
Chris is going to look for the question, but I'll read it out. There we go. If you were to have to pick just 3 items to place in your bag before a hike, not including water, what would you suggest? And I know the answer is not just 3, but if you had,
You
What
know
are the
me well,
top
and you know me well, and you know I was about to say, well, how can I answer that? I'm not allowed to answer anything but all these things. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll play the game, Kyle. No problem. I've had to pay 3 and minus the water. I would go with my handy dandy AdventureSmart safety whistle, which would allow me to signal a lot easier with a heck of a lot less effort by blowing the whistle than trying to yell for help. So, you know, a P-less whistle is awesome that it won't freeze in the winter time. P is the tiny little ball in the whistle that we would used to have in those whistles. So that's always on the outside of your pack, so it's easily accessible in case I fell and hurt and my arms were damaged or one was broken or something. I will get to it if it's close to me. So that would be one. Some other form of, Kyle must have known I set this out on my table tonight. I don't know. Quite handy, actually. I would also have another version of a signaling device. This is a reflective card that we give out to everyone who receives our presentations. Great 3T messaging there, some awesome, helpful numbers on the back there for all sorts of great people that can help you. So this is weather resistant, and this is also a device that's going to help me to alert spotters in aircraft if they're searching for me. So SAR can hear me, SAR can see me. One last thing. I know I technically can last a really long time without food, so hopefully I have a little bit of food in there. Shelter would be critical, and I want to keep warm and dry. So look at that, Kyle. One more thing to show you. We have our silver space blanket, and that again has our messaging on it, and everything's there. And everyone who receives our messages and presentations face-to-face gets these things as thank yous, rewards, incentives, whatever you want to call them, prizes. And that starts you to pack that kit, right? So I'll go back to what Jay was saying. That's only 3 of a few basic things that should be in there. And then I'm still adding it. Season is sport specific. So my pack to go snowmobiling on the ice cap up in Pemberton is completely different. It has my essentials, but then it's added season is sport specific because it's winter. I'm on an ice cap and I'm in the backcountry. I'm on a snowmobile. Versus my mountain bike pack that I take now to ride locally here has still the basics of all of that stuff in there, but then there's season and sport. If it's a certain multi-tool, if it's an extra tube, if it's my PPE, which is my knee pads, elbow pads, full face, if that, you know, there's extra things that go in based on my activity. So yeah, I played 3 only because you asked, but I consciously can't just take 3.
Yeah, you played it very well.
Very well.
Excellent. Good job. And yeah, absolutely. So I think that's the key message is there's certainly those items, and it was a great plug for the items that you get when you attend an Adventure Smart session. And we thank you guys for making sure that we can attend those sessions, learn the stuff, and get some cool tools that we can use.
Not just swag, but very useful items.
Yeah, not just swag. They're very practical. I covet my whistle, my Fox 40 whistle on my vest. But yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff to be prepared for. I noticed B&P McCartney said that they're in New Zealand watching the show from New Zealand.
Welcome.
So welcome. And yeah, we're excited to hear that you guys are going to be out of your lockdown soon. I think I've heard that on the news. And you know, I got to shout out, good job on your prime minister. You guys have an amazing prime minister down there.
She gets 2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, from a lot of people.
Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that. So a few years ago, we have annual search and rescue conferences right across Canada. And back in 2007, the Secretariat from New Zealand's Search and Rescue Association came up to our national conference here, loved what we were doing with AdventureSmart, went back to New Zealand, and it was the first model of what we've done here that was mimicked elsewhere in the world. So there is an AdventureSmart New Zealand, actually. Similar platform, not the face-to-face curriculum, but there is a online platform with similarities there. So it's great to see that the message got expanded based on what we were doing here in Canada.
That's very cool.
That is cool.
All right. Well, I think we've run through most things. What do you think, guys?
I think we have. Folks, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Patrons, make sure to join us on Saturday at 9 p.m. I will be sending out a message through Patreon. Make sure you have your alerts turned on. And until then, stay safe while you're caching in the Northwest.